Zack Smith, a legal fellow from the Heritage Foundation, released a response writing in part, quote, "While President Biden and his team claim to be providing additional funding and resources to law enforcement around the country, something which stands in stark contrast to the calls from other members of his party to defund the police, these efforts ring hollow. These countless preventable tragedies follow from the left's relentless obsession with defunding and canceling those charged with maintaining law and order and protecting public safety." Zack Smith, who wrote that article, joins us here live on the program. Hi, Zack. Good to see you here today. We also want to welcome in our Monday panelists, Joe DeGenova, former U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., and Victoria Tensing, former Chief Counsel, Senate Intel Committee. Great to see everyone here. I want to play for our viewers what President Biden had said about fighting the spike in crime across our country, and then we'll get your reaction. Here's the president.
And there are things we know that work that reduce gun violence and violent crime, and things that we don't know about. But things we know about, background checks for purchasing a firearm are important. Ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. No one needs to have a weapon that can fire over 30, 40, 50, even up to 100 rounds, unless you think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests or something. Community policing and programs that keep neighborhoods safe and keep folks out of trouble.
All right, that sounds as though it's part of the president's plan here. Zack Smith, what did you make of his remarks?
Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that the Biden administration has finally been forced to acknowledge the rising crime rates in cities across our country. The bad news is that, unfortunately, what President Biden and his team are proposing will likely do little to stem the tide of violent crimes, especially when you look at who they're partnering with in an effort to do this. One of the organizations they're partnering with is the George Soros founded and funded Open Societies Foundation, which in many ways have been responsible for a lot of the chaos we're seeing right now because George Soros and other liberal billionaires have backed the election of rogue prosecutors in many of the cities that are seeing the worst spikes in crime, like Chicago, St. Louis, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles, just to name a few. And so it's good that the Biden administration has been forced to acknowledge this, but these efforts are likely to fall flat and do little in the way of making substantive progress to fight this spike in violent crime.
Well, I always like to turn to the data, and it's the numbers that don't lie. And you mentioned some of the cities where we are seeing an increase in crime. We've got a graphic to show our viewers as well. Take note, Portland up 800% in crime. This is homicides specifically, 2021 versus 2020. So a year difference. Minneapolis, you're up 56%, Philadelphia up 40%. Washington, D.C., 35, L.A., 27, New York, 22, Chicago, 22. This is according to the National Fraternal Order of Police.